Hi, folks. I'm here today with Michael Robinson, contemporary painter known for his bold colors and big ideas. He's a rising star, but most importantly, he happens to be my dad. Thanks for joining me today, Michael.
Good to do it.
How are you feeling?
Pretty good. We keep in contact on the art. It's been kind of like a new way of communicating with you and your sister Kendall. I send you stuff along the way, and when it's done, and get your reaction. So you've kind of seen the growth from when I first started out. You were what, a teenager? What were you? Maybe just gone to college. It's been about 8 years. So
Wow.
you were like 20. You were in college when I got started. Yeah.
Yeah, I like seeing those progress photos.
Yeah, it's interesting. You sort of like, it'd be great to do one long 8-year time lapse.
How things have progressed over the years.
Yeah, right.
I think your calligraphy or your typeface has gotten a lot better.
My writing, yeah. Writing.
Okay, I have a couple questions written down for you.
Fire away.
Many of your paintings seem to pose big questions about life and spirituality. What is a message you hope viewers take away from your work?
Well, I believe in a higher power, I'm trying to be a more positive person. When I was younger, I was a lot darker. I did like punk rock and stuff like that. And I'm at a point in my life where, I've really always been interested in the big metaphysical questions of life. But as I got older and started painting, I wanted that to come through in my painting as much as possible. You have to be very careful how you do it because it's a fine line between something like, I have a saying in one of my paintings that is, in a moment of being lies an eternity of purpose, which I think is a very cool phrase because it's a call to action. Just remember, just like the one thing you do can change your life. Take a class, an act of heroism or good Samaritanism or something like that. And you have to be careful if you get, it's a fine line between being philosophical, astute, and metaphysical, and being like triacally, like it's a Hallmark card. Because I'm not doing motivational posters, I'm doing high art with it, trying to get to a deeper meaning. And part of what I'm doing is I'm trying to get people to sort of lean in to see what the saying is, and then have a more enhanced discovery experience.
Speaking of purpose, how has your sense of purpose evolved throughout your life? Do you feel like painting or your other hobbies fulfills a specific role, and does it connect to a larger sense of meaning and purpose for you?
Let's do the first one. So I started off as a journalist. So when I was a kid, I did art. My best friend and I would do like posters. It was the rock and roll era, late 60s, early 70s. And we would do posters and he would do the art and I would do the writing. So it was kind of like we were doing rock posters and social commentary and stuff like that. And I left that behind, and when I went to college, I decided to be a professional writer and a journalist. So I did that for 20 years. And then I got involved in music I started off as a lyricist, and then I learned to play the guitar and became a composer. And then I put a band together and toured all around Northern California. And so when I turned to art, I had retired from the stage, and it was just a fluke. I went to a painting party with your mom, and I painted the wildest thing there that night. And the look on the instructor's face was like very surprised. It was like, wow. I mean, it was complete. It was supposed to be buildings at a sunset, and I turned all the buildings into characters with faces. And he was like, and this guy was a high school art teacher, had been for years. So when that look on his face said a lot, like, oh, wow, I'm onto something here. And then I just really stuck with it. And your style evolves and things. From the very beginning, though, I did write on my paintings. I did one of like a self-portrait. I probably can't see it in the camera. It's over here I made the jewelry for it. It says, it don't mean a thing if it ain't got that bling. Because as a musician, I was always wearing bling stuff to be on stage. That's much more of a personal statement, but there's a painting behind us here. It's a fairly recent one, and it's open to interpretation, of course, but this is like a southwestern scene. It's a lightning storm, and he says, I am a force of nature, which I thought was really cool because part of the interpretation could be he could be a genie that's gotten out of one of these bottles, right? I'm a force of. He's escaped out to be a force of nature, and I'm trying to say in some ways like all of us are a force of nature.
So do you think your sense of purpose has evolved over time throughout your different hobbies, or are they a way of expressing your creativity?
Well, I'll be honest with you. I just go where I'm called. I
Hmm.
mean, how I became a songwriter and musician was I was taking a nap one day and I heard a song in my head. And then I went back to taking a nap and a song comes into my head. And I'm like, okay, this is significant.
Hmm.
I've been had 2 wake-up calls in a row. So I got up from my nap, went in and started writing lyrics. And it's just that simple how I became a songwriter. And then later it evolved to becoming a musician. So I think my subconscious brain is talking to me at various points of my life as to when I need to express myself and my thoughts. Hopefully, my talents are a part of that as well, in a unique way that moves me forward in my progression. So there was a time when journalism was the thing, and there was a time when music was the thing, and
Hmm.
now, I mean, I have a day job which I really enjoy doing, but this is kind of like where I put my passion
Hmm.
and zeal, and it happens to serve the purpose of you can have your art hanging all over the house, and then you can have things that have to you higher meaning, and hopefully to people.
Do you feel like you connect with others through your paintings?
I do. I'm really pleased that I've gotten some really good reactions. I mean, I've got the house right now decorated with a bunch of my originals. We usually have. I start off as an art collector, and then because I've always loved art since a little kid. Um, but I get people over and get them drunk and sell them. Get them drunk and sell them a
Yeah, that's
painting.
the way to do it.
I just get them drunk.
They wake up, what is this thing in my house?
Yeah, people relate to it, and I find that I do a lot of videos where I talk about behind the art, like what's the meaning
Hmm.
behind this. You have to be careful though, because people need to have their own interpretations
Right.
of it. So you don't want to come on too strong about it means this exact thing. If somebody says that reminds me of an airplane, you don't say no, it's a donkey. I mean, or vice versa. Um, so I do think people connect to it, and I think that as I progress, the last things I've been doing the last. Here's an example. I sold a painting 3 years ago to a guy I knew professionally, um, and then he was over here with his wife for a party that we had, and she fell in love with this painting. It's on this other wall. I can't see it, but and she goes, "Oh, this is a little bit different for you." But it was like quite a progression because the one they bought, I don't know if the camera will pick this up, is this piece over
I
here.
think it
That's a limited
is.
edition version of it. I bought the canvas. So now I just need to follow up. If I get how I sell art, basically, I have a website, but I find that if I can get to know people and they find my story, and if they come and look at it and spend a little time in a relaxed way, it speaks to them. And I'm
Mhm.
gratified because as I've progressed, I've done different styles, and every single style that I've done, I've sold something from that. So as of today, what is this? Right before Christmas of 2024, I've sold 9 originals and 2 limited editions, and I sold all those myself. A gallery sold one piece for me.
Mm.
So it's just getting to know people, making personal connections, and having them follow you.
So you're known for your bold colors, right? They dominate your paintings. How do you use color to evoke emotion and meaning in your pieces?
That's a really good question because I know, like in literature classes, they'll say, when he used the color purple in this, what does it mean? I'm like, I think he just liked the color purple. For me, it started off as I like a good color story, and I'm fortunate that I have a natural one. I've gone through my real bold phase. We say bold colors, but really it's distinctive colors, passionate colors. Um, the first thing I did when I started painting was I got out a sketchbook, and then I started mixing up paints and writing down the formulas. So these guys had given me a modern color theory book, and it talked about their formulas for golden artist colors. They had all their formulas there. Well, I didn't have any of the things that they had, so I had to go. I bought a bunch of paints and started mixing them up and started putting paint swatches with the formulas together. Then I have a color wheel and a color book, and so when I go to do a painting, I go through my color book. I kind of make a decision, like, what's the background going to be. I like to have a complex background, and I sometimes I'll just put a wash over it, so it's kind of right below the surface, right below the surface. So I don't think of the symbolism of a color, generally speaking. I'm just concerned how the colors first of all, is the color gratifying to me?
Mm.
Is it something that's unique to me? And then does it tell the story that I want to tell? And I don't try to say, well, the symbolism here means that I have to have this kind of color here. I just don't think of it that way. It's just how it all flows together, because you want your canvases to have a certain amount of harmony, but also flow, some motion, some rhythm. And sometimes I don't know exactly how the colors are going to come out on the canvas, because I'll take like a light blue and a dark blue and mix it a little bit of white. Just kind of go like this, put it on the brush, and it'll just let it work itself out on the canvas, which is kind of cool. It's very exciting. Like you don't really know how it's going to do. Sometimes I'll take a palette knife and I'll scrape it to give it a real distressed look.
As a writer and painter, how do you approach storytelling in your paintings versus your columns or music?
Well, you mentioned columns because I do write about investments as the day job. So that's not creative writing by definition. It's business writing. I have a style, a personal style, it's a conversational style. But the point of that is to tell people, here's some really great ideas. Here's some ways to make some money on this, right? I spent a lot of time in Silicon Valley, and we come out of these high-tech meetings and seminars, and I go, "Oh, that stuff's really exciting. How are you going to make a buck on it?" So that's writing about how people can make money. This is a completely different thing. So with music, the idea pops into your head. I used to keep a writing pad in my car, and I had a writing pad and a tape recorder next to my bed, because if I woke up in the middle of the night with an idea in my head, I'd want to get it out quickly. So how music flows into your head, usually there's a melody, that you're kind of humming along with the lyrics. Sometimes it's just the lyrics, sometimes it's just the melody. Ideally, they come at the same time. I had that happen with a song years ago. I was driving down the road, I got the idea, I pulled over, jotted off a couple of lyrics, and I walked into the house, picked up my guitar, and just literally the first draft pretty much worked. I refined it over time, but that was a solid first draft. With the visual arts, it's the same kind of thing. You get an inspiration, but it's visual, not auditory. Mm. So, well, here, this piece, I have no idea what the inspiration was, but I thought of a guy standing out there, a giant person, a big spirit with lightning all around. And that's how it came out. And I wanted him to be, this one took a lot more work than it looks like. A few false starts along the way to get all the colors right. But I was just trying to get the sense, this is, I'm a force of nature, just trying to get the sense of, like, there's an electricity literally in our lives. And sometimes you get that insight. It's like being hit by a thunderbolt with a wake-up call. So the visual arts, it usually comes like there's just an idea. I don't really doodle like some guys on the airplane will draw and stuff. I don't really do that. I'll draw two ways. One is to practice to get better, something more complicated. Like I'll go through a series of doing, like I did a bunch of nudes, and I'll do a bunch of other things just to get better at live drawing and stuff like that. But generally, the idea comes across, usually just a flash of inspiration, then I got to work it out. Let me just add this. Just one example is I was on the phone on hold with my bank, and I don't know, I just had a piece of paper, and this idea came to me, and I sketched it out, and then I painted it, and it became it's a piece called Tempted But the Truth is Discovered. Tempted But the Truth is Discovered, and it's my take on the Garden of Eden. But it just came to me like I was on hold. Next thing you know, there I was.
So do most of the ideas come as flashes, or do you also draw from your real life? I know there's a few paintings like that, but
draw from my real life.
The one I'm looking at now is the selfie.
Oh, that's an interesting point. So that actually, not too much from my personal life. We talked earlier about the one where I was a musician, and I always wore a fedora and listened in the studio. That one was funny because that's a good point. I was coming back from skiing, and I like to stop in the woods and take pictures, just break it up. And I want to enjoy the nature, not just go fast all the time. And I just got back to the bar, and what I'll do at the end of the day is kind of go through the pictures that I've taken, like my portfolio of my day, right? And I saw that, and I went, it was just my giant shadow on the mountain, and it was really black and white. It was just, green, a little bit of green from the trees. And I was like, oh man, that's going to be a painting. And then it came out, there's a giant guy and he's in the mountains, but I wanted to put my Michael Robinson spin on there. So I had it say, what does it say? Every path has its stones, rock hard. Words to live by.
Okay. So you taught yourself how to play the guitar at 30, right? 30-ish?
Yeah, but I later took lessons.
Okay. So how has teaching yourself guitar at 30 influenced your approach to teaching yourself painting?
Funny, I've never taken a painting lesson or an art class since junior high, something like that. Well, because I know from experience I can learn. There's a lot of things I can learn to do. I just, so I had the advantage of having been a successful musician in the sense that I had put out CDs, 4 in total, and toured, maybe played 100 live shows. So I knew that I could do more than one thing in life. I knew that I could transition from being a journalist to being a musician. I usually had a day job of some kind while I was a musician. And so when it became time to paint, it's funny because I didn't want to become a painter. Literally, I'd already been involved with the arts for a while. And I wanted to do it again. Seriously, I was having fun, just didn't want to get involved in anything serious artistic pursuit. But I was in the kitchen and his voice is like, you got to paint. And I was like, I'm not going to paint. And the next night, you're going to be a painter. I mean, yeah, I'm not going to paint. I don't want to do the arts again. The third night, I'm like, okay, this is significant. I'm going to be a painter. So I went down to the art store that Saturday, bought a bunch of arts, and just went from there. But I think the lesson is to just stick with it, I think.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, speaking of lessons, would you say to not let being a certain age or not having a certain level of experience that hold people back from pursuing things that they're passionate about?
I really don't. You should just go ahead and do it. I mean, don't worry about how good it is. It'll get better. Mm-hmm. Picasso's an unusual example. By the age of 14, he was just a master, just amazing. You don't have to be the next Picasso. You just have to be the next you. Mm-hmm. It's a different version of you. Hopefully a more enriched you, because if it speaks to you and you really want to do it, you should do it. And I'm not saying like quit your day job and on a leap of faith and starve for 5 years. That would be difficult to do. But I think that, we're meant to do. There's a lot of life out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. And you were talking about that voice a couple of times. Is that the universe, the higher power speaking to you? And do you do anything to tap into that, or does it just come to you?
Well, I wake up every morning and I try to tap into it. Your mom doesn't like me to say this because people think you're crazy, but
you're a little crazy.
Yeah, the first thing I do in the morning is, and it's really cool because of this Pura thing that comes on. It's like a night light. It's on a timer. It comes on at like 5:30, and I'm usually awake by 5:15. And I put my hands up to the air, usually my fist, and I say, "But the Lord shines down on my soul and makes all things possible."
Wow.
That's my first chant of the day. Yeah, first chant of the day. Then I go through a series of things that I'm thankful for. Not you kids, that's for sure. Very expensive. And so it just goes from there. And that is an important question. I think we don't really have time to explore it today. It's like, how do you program your subconscious mind?
Right.
And I've learned from experience to, one, trust my instincts, and two, to let my creative mind be open to ideas. I think that's the important thing. And don't tell yourself, oh, I'm meant to be a banker, so I can't paint. The other thing you talk about the color stories, I usually before I paint, your mom's favorite paintings were the ones where we didn't have any story conferences. Right? She came home when they were done, right? No hassles. But since I was a longtime writer and a co-writer on music, so I'm used to working with producers and editors and things like that. So I'll meet with your mom and we'll go over what's the idea we're trying to get across here. Maybe some basic colors. What's the concept? And then she's good because she knows what my life philosophy is about. So how it fits in or doesn't fit in with the life philosophy. So that's been a really important thing. So in a sense, while I didn't take lessons, I had a guide, somebody to help me, to push me and this isn't working or that's working great or whatever.
Yeah, having someone as a soundboard is going to tell
Yes.
you
Yeah.
how it is in a loving way. Loving-ish. Your work is described as bold and playful, yet imbued with hidden messages. Can you walk us through how you balance these elements in your paintings?
Uh, it depends on each painting to some extent. Um, I like to have eye candy in there, things that I want people to lean in. B.B. King once said something about a solo, like you want to he would play it a little more quietly so that the audience would lean in a little bit. And I listened to that. And so when I play solos, I'd try to have a break and I'd play real quiet, just, get the audience leaning in. With painting, you're trying to do sort of the same thing. You want people to lean in and have a new discovery experience. Each canvas is unique, and so in an ideal world, each canvas would have some connection to something else in there, but also have its own unique statement that can stand on its own. Mm-hmm. It can't be like, oh well, you have to, well that's this other painting. You got to go look at this and come look at that. So that's a jangled up way of saying that each painting should stand on its own, but hopefully it's part of a larger mosaic. Mm-hmm. And the symbolism is there. The hidden meanings are, you don't see certain things and then you, like this one here, I just talked about it. This could be interpreted as the genie got out of the bottle, or it could just be he's just like that's his soul. It's emerged, or just anything like that. And those colors, I chose how they flow against each other. So the hidden meanings are sometimes they're jokes. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they're jokes. I was just like a little funny thing, or I'll have a look on an expression on a character's face. It's supposed to be somewhat humorous. Mm-hmm. I have a painting. I told you, Tempted, but the truth is discovered. There's a snake crawling up the tree. He's got kind of a weird look, and the tiger. There's a tiger, and he's turned toward the audience with a real goofy look on his face. But there's hidden meaning in that because on one side of it, there's these things that could be like seeds, DNA. So it takes a while. Somebody's over here recently went through the whole thing. He got it. I mean, there's like, there's the Earth Mother, and there's the snake. It's this, and there's the tiger. But then there's these pods in here inside of a leaf. A person's connected to it. And then there's another one over here. So this could be like the DNA. This could be like the birth canal. Mm-hmm. And so when you get and really look at it beyond the fact that it's got pleasing colors and it's really cool, draws people in. There's the hidden meanings are, well, what are these pods? That's interesting. What is he saying here with that? So I like to do that. Another classic example is the painting I told you where it says, in a moment of being lies an eternity of purpose. There's a butte, and in the bottom of the butte is a door that's opening up, and there's like yellow, like it's like light, like it's opening up to the universe. And then above it is like a galaxy. So I like to think that there's a hidden meaning with the galaxy, but also, that door, you see the colors from across the room, but you have to go up and look at the door. And you go, oh, he's opening the door to a new realm. Oh, that's interesting. And then you start looking at the rest of the painting.
Mm-hmm. I feel like a lot of your paintings, the more you look at it, the more you see.
That's the point.
Yeah.
By the way, they're all available at rockyrobinsonart.com. Come and buy 2 or 3.
Shameless plug. Okay, I think we're about done. I have one more, unless there's something else you want to tell us about your art. How do you hope your art will contribute to the world or impact others long after you're gone?
Wow. Well, I'm in no hurry to be gone. I'll tell you that right now. I don't know. It's hard to say. I mean, I think it's realistic to become. I'd like to become an established regional painter, and I think that people who collect my works know what I'm about, and hopefully that will, live on. How long? I don't know. I mean. But I would like to be known for really all the things you've been talking about here today, like, why I'm doing it, what I'm trying to do, what I've accomplished with it, what these pieces mean. And the more I sell and more my bodies of work become accepted, the more that's going to happen. I would like to be known just really honestly as a guy who, was a talented painter and had something to say, and his paintings are really unique. I mean, I'm not doing like still lives and stuff like that. They're out there, and I'm taking chances, and I'd like to be known for a guy who is willing to take some chances in his art.
Yeah. Okay, so where can the people find your art? You already told us your website, Instagram, YouTube.
Instagram, no YouTube. Well,
What's
no
your Instagram
YouTube.
handle?
At Michael Robinson Art, and then it's Michael Robinson Art on Facebook, and then it's michaelrobinsonart.com on the web.
Okay, go follow him. Buy something. Thanks, Michael.
You are welcome, Jordan.